we look at testing, and this is the year. This is what's going to happen. This is where it all starts.
Or it's just relatively pointless. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. We are here with the boys, Drew, Edward, Thomas, and Walker, and we have an entire 3 days of talk about testing, preseason testing. It's what we've all been waiting for, except for apparently Thomas, because he doesn't watch testing.
No, you know what?
Too
it makes
good
it more
for
exciting.
testing.
It makes
Too
it
good for
more
testing.
exciting going into the race, not knowing how the teams do, just kind of figuring out as the race goes. It makes it more exciting that way.
Is that your story? That you're sticking to it?
That's why I'm sticking to it. Yes.
Yeah, it's okay because most of us, we can't wait for testing. It's finally we get some cars on track. There's some competition. We're getting some information and data on the season that's here, that's to come, and you're just like, nah.
Just
I got
bring
2
the race.
weeks.
That's
I'll
all I
wait
care
it
about.
out.
All right, it's like so for you, this is gonna be like an awkward blind date because you're not gonna have really much to talk about.
I'll wing it. Don't worry.
I'm still looking forward to your quote unquote insights into testing. Let's let's start with someone who definitely watched testing. Ed, I know you're looking forward to this. I know you went through all the stats. We're going to touch on all that really quickly, but opening thoughts, F1 testing 2025, give us the goods.
Well, as you guys all know how much I love FP1, that's why I love testing. Because everything is, we look at testing, and this is the year. This is what's going to happen. This is where it all starts.
Or it's just relatively pointless.
Yes.
Like
Could be.
FP1.
Yeah.
Either or.
Either or.
But carry on. We'll go with your theory first. Carry on.
Okay. So top of the list for me would definitely be my boy Carlos Sainz. Top over all time. The rest of the field. All 3 days, he was head honcho when it comes to the time. So that is a massive, massive change compared to last year with Williams. So not only are we talking about the driver in general, but even their car. Again, just like FP1, just like pre-testing, things could change during the season, but we don't know if other teams are sandbagging or not. Next up would be McLaren. They are the season favorites at this point. There are some concerns in terms of the car being a little bit hard to control, and they're probably preparing for the regulation changes, specifically the flexi wings, because that's one thing that really, really helped them last season. And we shall see how they're going to react and how they're going to prepare for those changes. And nipping at their heels are both Ferrari and Mercedes. So as we all know, Lewis Hamilton is now with the red Ferraris, and they were, I wouldn't say really fast, neither would I say really slow either. They were how we would expect them to be. As we all know, they are good with qualifying, 1 lap speed. They're all about that straight line speed. They're good with that. Mercedes, not so much in a straight line, but good mid-speed corners, slow corners. And on top of that, Bahrain had weird weather wherein it was also cold. So again, could be playing towards Mercedes on that end for preseason testing. And then lastly, because I don't want to, take up the entire podcast if I talk about all of this, would be Red Bull. Man, oh man. Lots of issues.
Let's save that. Yeah. Because we're gonna go kind of team by team and kind of go through it a little bit more. Red Bull being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Drew, opening thoughts, buddy.
Yeah, I'm always excited to see the boys back on track. It was a very interesting set of testing. Obviously, you have your front running teams, which remain virtually constant. So you got McLaren was up there, Ferrari was up there, Mercedes was up there, Red Bull was still up there. They just weren't that domination that we're used to seeing over the last little bit. But the mid pack team is kind of what's more interesting. I think you have some of those historically bottom running teams that are kind of fighting for that mid pack space. You got your Williams there, you got your Haas there, which I think is super, super interesting. And then you got teams, well, or at least a team like Aston Martin, which seem to be struggling. And I don't know if they're sandbagging or they're trying to figure some stuff out. But our homeboy Adrian Newey has officially started at Aston Martin Racing. So things might seem dramatically different by the time we actually get to the first race, or at least the first quarter of the season. Things might turn around for them, hopefully with Newey there. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I love to see the change up in domination. Unfortunately, this is going to be the last, set of races before these regulations change. But I'm super excited for all of it. It's great seeing Lewis Hamilton get into a car like Ferrari after a big stint with Mercedes. It's cool to see him kind of be able to take on the challenge of a new car and a new team and a new language and run with it, which is awesome. And it's actually really nice too, towards Ed's point, with Carlos Sainz over at Williams, to see him do the same thing, right? He spent a few years at Ferrari, and to see him jump into that Williams and kind of take off with that is just awesome. So yeah, I'm pumped to see all that stuff.
I feel like I agree with everybody here in that I'm really excited for testing and seeing cars on track. And I also might think it's a little bit pointless, right? Because you see a lot of show, like it's hard to really, there have been a few examples in the past where, we've identified really great concepts and great teams and really poor ones. The one I'm thinking of is Mercedes with their zero pod design a few years ago, right? They came out completely different from everyone else. And everyone just kind of knew from that point out that they were a bit of a dud in terms of the season that was coming up. How much do you put into the results that we saw in this particular testing, and how representative do you think that is of the year to come?
Why doesn't Thomas answer that question?
Oh yeah,
Thomas.
That's a great question for Thomas to answer.
Since most of you know now, I didn't watch testing, and just basically to what Walker said, just because a team or a driver has a very, very good result, that doesn't necessarily set precedent for how their season is going to go or their race is going to go. So for me, part of that, it's kind of personal, but I don't really enjoy watching testing. I don't find the fun of it. It feels more like a chore than where you actually sit down and you watch the race. So for me, the race is what really speaks to me, and that's what I think it shows how possibly the rest of the season is gonna go. So to Walker's point, testing might give us a hint here or there for a certain team or driver, but it does not guarantee anything. When the races happen, there's so much factors, weather, crashes, someone gets sick or loses an appendix, that throws a whole nother curveball into the race. So yeah, testing, it doesn't set anything for me.
And I just want to qualify my statement. When I say it's pointless, I mean it's pointless for us, the fans, and people who are trying to pontificate on what it means for the future to come. I think it's an incredibly important exercise for teams as they try and figure out like their cars and the balance, and they have different setups and they're running different programs. But within that, you don't always have parity by which the times are comparable to each other, right? Because you're running high fuel, low fuel, different drag levels, et cetera, et cetera. So qualifying that for my statement, Drew, what do you take away, and how reliable do you think the results are from this session going into the year?
It's a great question, and I agree wholeheartedly. Like, I think, does this set the tone for the year? Kinda, yeah. Everybody comes out with the best on what they had, and to your previous point too about Mercedes coming out with the side pods, and everybody looking at that being like, that shit's not gonna work. Well, that shit didn't work. So there are some things that people can get wrong. I think testing's, like you said too, it's great for the teams. The teams need to do this. I'm sure the amount of data that they get over those 3 days is absolutely incredible and gives them a ton to work on over the next few weeks. But the reality is that like all the work that they've done to come out with this car during testing, there's a lot of it that's done already. Like there's not a lot of huge changes that can be made that quickly and get back to the factory, machine the parts, get them out there. They can do it pretty quick, but like they've based their whole design around a certain style or an idea, and to kind of switch up the whole whips at this point would be very difficult, right? So I think that you know, it doesn't show 100% what the season's going to look like. Do I think that the standings are going to come out something very similar to where they are now? Yeah, maybe. We still got our top four as the top four. Those middle pack teams, I think that there's a lot more in some of the lower and mid pack teams that can swing a tenth of a second here and there very quickly and start jumping ahead of some of those other teams. So I think that there's some more movement around the bottom, but I think that the top four are so tight that I can imagine it being a roll of a four-sided dice.
I totally agree, but the interesting thing for me is there are some teams, like for example, we have the top four, which is pretty much going to be standard like this entire season. But what I'm really looking forward to, I think this season specifically, is the midfield battle. I'm looking at Williams. I'm looking at Alpine. Will they break it into the top four? Any of those two teams? They're not going to win the championship, 100%, hands down. They're not going to win, like, even make it to podium in terms of like constructors or even drivers. But even breaking into that compared to how they were last year, that's going to be that it gives me a telltale sign that these two teams are now climbing. They are going to take a little bit more out of the top teams, even specifically towards Red Bull, because Red Bull right now, based on what they showed us for pre-testing, they're at the bottom of that top four. So I'm excited. I want to see how both Alpine and Williams will perform come Australia.
So I was going to ask the question: who's the surprise for the session? I know we've had a couple of Williams mentioned. Anyone else of note that kind of surprised you?
Not really.
Did we lose you?
Alpine did okay. Like I didn't hate on Alpine, but I think Williams was like the big surprise there in terms of like fastest lap and like overall race pace. I think that the other surprise going the other way was Aston Martin, right? And they were sliding downhill at the end of last year, and I think that they've kept up with that. But is that a surprise? Probably not. I know that Newey's just starting there, but I think that that Aston kind of needed a little bit more pace there.
Speaking of Alpine, and this is a little off topic, last week we talked about the liveries, reveal, F175, all that kind of stuff, and I was a big fan of Alpine under the lights. Not as big of a fan in person. That blue and pink, I don't know. It wasn't doing it for me, right? And someone brought up Pepto-Bismol last time, and it was on my mind. That was you, Thomas. Thank you. Did you see pictures of testing, Thomas? Do you have anything to kind of
I did see
contribute?
some pictures.
Yeah, okay, good.
But going back to the whole Alpine point, that like even when I saw it in the reveal, I didn't like it, and this just strongly confirmed my the same thing. It just looks even uglier somehow in real life. So yeah, I called it on that one.
You know what? Good lighting will work wonders. And when they're out in the daylight, it was just kind of flat. It wasn't for me. Off topic, I know. Ed, you said something really interesting.
On topic. Kind of
off topic. Yeah. I mean, straying a little bit, but any other liveries disappoint in the flesh while we're on topic? No, just Alpine.
No, just Alpine, I guess.
Haas was looking nice. I really like the Mercedes livery. I think that looked pretty sharp. It was like not a big change, but I just kind of like the fades that they did from the black to the kind of teal into the silver. It was nice.
I
liked it,
guys.
Yeah, it was
it's a theme. The gradients this season.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing it. Or that's big stripe in the back. So yeah, it's a nice theme.
I want to go back to something you said, Ed. Just before I went on that tangent, you pegged Red Bull as number 4.
Yeah.
3-time back-to-back world champion driver,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
I know they struggled a bit last year. You've got them in 4th place right now. Explain yourself.
No, the struggles have continued. It clearly shows that Red Bull is really not looking at 2025 at this point. Like, they are just like, you know what? We'll take what we can get. We'll try to improve the instability of the car during the corners, because both Liam Lawson and Max Verstappen spun out. So, I mean, that was the same issue they were having last year. I mean, they have designed the car in a sense that it is for Max Verstappen, because he always loves to play in the limit. He knows how to turn the car, not just with the steering wheel, but also with the pedals as well. But I think they overdid that way too much. So that for me just like tells me that the team, they're invoking, they're just like, they're done in terms of like 2025. They're not preparing for 2026, the new regs, because they are lacking a lot of manpower, lacking a lot of talent in there. They've lost a lot last year. So they're, you know what, let's stick to the RB20, maybe get some points from the RB19. That was the one that they won a lot. But yeah, it wasn't looking good. So that's why I have them on 4th.
Drew, any thoughts on this?
No, I just towards a point at the beginning of his little spiel there, I think that, like, you know, Red Bull's kind of just starting to work on 2026's car. Like, I think that they've just kind of chalked this up as a whatever year, and they're already focusing on the rebuild. And do I think it's a bad call? Nah, they had a good string. They were pushing for a constructors win last year. They didn't. They still won the drivers. You know, do I think that they're still going to push for something here? 100%. That's who they are. I think they lost a big piece of their car's puzzle, which was Adrian Newey. And I just think that, with Max and Lawson in there, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for things to go wrong, because I think Lawson's still that wild card. And again, Red Bull can't take that fight to any one of those other 3 teams ahead of them with only one driver. We saw that happen last year with Checo and the year before, really. And, virtually any team, you have to have 2 good drivers now to win a championship. That's just how it's going to be from now on.
So are you saying that Lawson is not a good driver?
I'm saying that Lawson's an unproven driver.
Agree.
I tend to disagree with that.
100% true. Unproven, untested.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that you guys are writing off Red Bull so quickly. And by
not
writing off,
them off.
I mean like 4th place.
Yeah.
Right? But behind Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren. Because again, we touched on this in an earlier episode this year, but I find it hard to picture a scenario where Max isn't going 100, right? Where he's content just playing it safe until 2026 or taking a break. And maybe that's like the management perspective, and maybe that's kind of like how they are operating the team. But as a driver, and as that particular driver, I think I don't know how well that would work. And I don't know if they can operate a team where at him going, 80%.
I also think too that Mercedes is not the team to bank that they're going to be behind. Like, I can almost guarantee that Ferrari and McLaren are going to be ahead of Red Bull this year, but I cannot guarantee that with Mercedes for the same reason.
They're in the same boat. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Kimi Antonelli is just unproven. And again, to be in the top 4, you have to, or in the top 2, you need to have 2 winning drivers.
Yeah.
That's
okay. So let's talk about the rookies a bit, Thomas. Who is the most impressive rookie in preseason testing for you?
Impressive. Well, I'm still gonna stick to my guy Leon Lawson.
Is it the hair?
You know what? I just
Different
think
hair.
he has skill, but he still hasn't had the full potential to show us that skill. I have a very strong feeling that he's going to dominate. He's going to go basically on par with Max Verstappen, if not maybe a little bit more spicier, maybe a little bit more aggressive in some tracks. and I think they're going to make it work. And kind of going back a little bit to Ed kind of saying, not necessarily writing off Red Bull, but to finish fourth, like, yes, I can kind of see that, but at the same time, no. And to Drew's point, they're not going to give 80%. They're going to give 110%. They're going to push that car. They're going to try to score points. They're going to try to score podiums. Now, with the car that they have, lots of talent has been lost as well, so there's a little bit of struggle in that point. But point is, I'm trying to make Liam Lawson and Max Verstappen, they're going to kill it. They're going to dominate. They're going to give it all their best, and I see them in the top 3, honestly.
Top
Pretty confident for a guy who didn't watch fucking preseason.
Yeah.
top 3. Okay,
That's a great non-answer.
Yeah.
No, that I no, not even. No.
We'll see about that.
No. Top 3. No.
I think top 3 is possible because I like Walker and I mentioned like the non-consistent information that we have about Kimi Antonelli and Liam Lawson. Like, you can't bank on those guys yet; they're not there.
Yeah, but like the way Kimi Antonelli was taking the corners, he looked more solid than Liam Lawson and Max Verstappen. My opinion. I felt that he had it like dialed down a little bit more. The car looked a lot more stable than what Red Bull had for
I think
preseason testing.
that Mercedes car is an easier car to get in and drive than the Red Bull.
Yeah,
because they've been making that Red Bull for Max Verstappen for a long time, and Checo's had
Yes.
a big issue. Everyone else has had a big issue with it. So I think that getting into that car is a much more difficult task than getting into that Mercedes. Just my 2 cents.
and that's why I was saying earlier that they did it so well that even Max Verstappen is having a hard time with it too. That's why I don't think they're gonna make third. That's why I feel really strongly about this, and I feel bad for the team because like that's how they're gonna lose Max if they continue on this trajectory. They're not gonna have a fantastic car. They're not gonna be competing. Who's to say that Max is going to stay?
Okay, so who's your rookie, Ed? Who's your most impressive rookie?
I don't know. For me, I can't really say. I mean, for me, it would have to be Gabriel Bortoleto. Impressive in a sense, not in terms of performance, but in terms of like how he handled himself with how sucky that Sauber was, because they're at the bottom. Yeah, the sucky Saubers.
It's a technical term.
Yes.
And it was. I mean, it's his first time in Formula One. It's his first time in a Formula One car, and he was still like a little chipper about it. I can't say much for Nico Hulkenberg, but yeah, he's gonna have a lot to deal with for this season. So good on him. But as you guys said, like in terms of like performance, I think the preseason testing for the rookies was more towards like enjoy the car, feel the car, see what you can do. How can you find the limits of the car and then give the inputs to the engineers. I think it would be a better way for us to measure the rookies during FP1 in Australia, qualifying, and then the actual race.
I'm going to go with Kimi Antonelli on this one. I think, he has the biggest opportunity to get in there. I think that Mercedes is more forgiving on its tire management, and I think he will have a bigger swing in terms of having to take care of those tires and having one less thing to think about while he's racing. So I'm going to have to give it out to Kimi. I think that his ability to get into that car, obviously his quick little stint in, what was it, Monza, that where he put it in the wall, that was a bad look. But, after seeing him during preseason, I think that, Toto might be onto something. He did look confident, to Ed's point. He was looking pretty confident, and I just think that car is going to give him a little of the grace that he needs. So I'm going to go with Kimi on this one, bud.
So just looking it over quickly. So no rookie outpaced their more seasoned teammate, right? So all of the incumbent drivers were the fastest drivers, but of all of them, we did have Kimi topping the charts for the rookies, with Lawson coming second, about what is it? Half a second behind.
That's a big gap.
That's a big gap. Different cars, testing, we'll see. Based on everything you saw in testing, Thomas, have your predictions changed from the first show we did when we talked about Drivers' Championship, Team Championship?
No, I don't think they did. I think they're going to be the same.
Perfect.
That's
Any
a great
rationale
answer
behind
for-
that based on testing? Any rationale, or just
No rationale,
just because?
Yes.
Just because.
Just because. Okay, Ed.
Early. I actually forgot what I said during the other
That was
episodes.
my next question. Quick poll.
Yeah.
Who actually remembers what
I
they
don't
said on the
remember.
first episode?
I actually don't. But you know what? Like I'm gonna call it right now for me. And I'm gonna do the exact same prediction from last year. McLaren, drivers, and constructors.
What a boring, safe bet.
Right?
Jesus, Ed.
Yeah, but that's what
Come
you call
on.
conviction. Conviction.
I'm
Yeah,
sticking with my boy Lewis
boring.
this year. I'm going to jump on the Ferrari bandwagon because I'm going to put it out there. I look good in red too. Package size, a little bit smaller than Lewis's, but still looking good in red, boys. Yeah, no, I think that Ferrari's got a good shot at it. I think there might be a power struggle dynamic between Oscar and Lando this year again. And I think if they keep splitting the wins like that it might have an opportunity for somebody at Ferrari to take that. So I'm going to put that out there. I don't think it's a dark horse, but I think that it's a very real possibility. And, just to contrast what Ed said, because fuck that guy.
Very sound rationale.
Yeah, very.
The rationale is almost as good as Thomas's. I'm pretty sure I went straight fanboy on my predictions and did Lewis and Ferrari. So I'm going to stick with that just because. And that's my reasoning. If everyone else gets to do it, why can't I?
Why not?
Why not? If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that beyond all the fun we have here, we have a Discord channel where we have tons of fun, lots of chats. We share shit on social, talk during the races, all that kind of stuff. One thing we do on the channel is we have the mail box. Did I do that okay, Drew?
It's okay. I think there's only 3 boxes, but we can put as many boxes
I did
in
4
as we want.
boxes.
There's 4
We have
boxes.
the mailbox where we have questions from the community. And this week we had a great question from Derek, who's always on there, always in there, always chatting up. And his question was, what are your thoughts on Monaco becoming a mandatory 2-stop race?
Can I answer that first?
Go.
You sure can.
Oh boy, I like it. Because it's going to give an like obviously last year, the year before, we had some rain, which was awesome. I'm here for it. That time of the year in Monaco, it's always a possibility. It's historically been a possibility. But for the races that we have where the weather's great, it's an incredibly boring race. Qualies are fire, but that's it. And I think to give everyone an opportunity to screw up twice is incredible, because that's essentially what you're doing is you're trying to figure out, you're balancing tire strategy and your mechanics not screwing the pooch during a tire change. So I'm here for it. Short answer, I'm with it. And it's already happened, so it is what it is.
So, I mean, in terms of that, like, I don't think things are going to change. It's going to be a procession. Like, lap 1, they would pit. Lap 2, they would pit and then wait. That's it. It doesn't really change as much. The only thing that would change is the sentiments of the drivers towards the FIA at this point. So
I think it's gonna get very crispy and very spicy with the 2-stop strategy. It is definitely gonna, like, basically to Drew's point, it's gonna mess up. I think not necessarily mess up, but it's gonna throw in this randomness into the race. And if your drivers are performing, if the mechanics are performing, weather comes into play. And I'm for the same way as Drew. It's gonna make things so much more interesting. Monaco, like, is an okay race. enjoy it somewhat, but with 2 stops, I think it has so much more potential, so much more entertainment value added because of it.
I don't know how I feel about this. I have an idea of how I feel about this, and it comes back to the FIA trying to manufacture entertainment, right? And I understand there are other rules in place that kind of try and accomplish this, but this is like a very track-specific, unique situation where they are trying to manufacture more entertainment based on the characteristics of a track. And I don't know if I like it, right? Like, what happens if they then go to, Spa or something like that, and they say on Eau Rouge, when you're going up the hill, you have to take your foot off the gas and just coast, right? And that's going to be a rule, right? And these are ridiculous examples, but like, I don't know if I like these per track regulations or rules to manufacture that. I think it's just the characteristic of the track. And there's other reasons Monaco is great, because of qualifying, because of like the show, because of everything that it is, because of the history. So, while I think it will make the race a little bit more interesting, I just don't know if I like the precedent that it sets based on the goals that it's trying to achieve, right? I think it takes some of the sporting out of it. And maybe not the sport, but just like the pure racing out of it, given that track. So that's my take on it. That's what I
like
think.
your opinion. I like it. I understand what you're saying, because it's like where does this end?
Yeah.
I know where it ends. I have the answer where it ends.
Oh, good God. Thomas, please enlighten us.
Susie Wolf, 2026, president for the FIA.
I see a huge conflict of interest there.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Are
Toto?
Are you confused about her last name?
Toto? Nah. I don't
Yeah,
think so.
Yeah,
that'll
I
never
thought
happen.
about that as well. As soon as
That'll
I
never
saw
happen.
that.
It's cute. It's a cool little meme to put up on Instagram to get some likes and shares, but
Yeah.
this shit ain't happening, bro.
And it's not even that she doesn't deserve it. Like, I think she probably has
Not
like
it at all.
the credentials and like the mind to probably do a really good job. But yeah, how do you stay impartial? Right?
You
I
can't.
mean, that being said, the FIA is a big governing body. They do more than Formula One, right? So,
But does anything else really matter?
well, no.
There we go.
No, the answer is no. But
yeah, they do one thing then.
just want to go back to the mailbox box and Derek's question, because he brought up a good point. He was talking about the strategy that teams are going to take if they do find themselves near the back, right? And that's basically just, in addition to kind of like what I said, right? Are teams then going to take strategy decisions or make strategy decisions in which it compromises the race further? So, for example, he said if teams are near the back, they're going to do one pit stop on the first lap, do one pit stop on the second lap, and then they're just going to ride it out and hope for the best, right? They're going to try and catch up, and then that's it, right? That's boring.
I'm here for it.
Wouldn't it be crazy if every single team did the 2 pit stops on the first and second lap?
They all had to just scramble in the pit lane, in the already small pit lane.
And they just troll the FIA by doing that, and it's the same race.
That would be pretty funny.
That would be the ultimate troll.
Isn't there like a rule where the pits only open like on lap like 3 or 5, or is that only for some tracks?
I don't think so.
And based on the FIA, they can change the rules again anyway.
Yeah, they can make it exactly. Anyways, Derek, buddy, thank you for the question. Come check out the Discord. Link's going to be in the show notes. Join the conversation. Leave a question. We'll have to talk about them here every single week. Gentlemen, there's only one way to end an episode like this.
Only one way I know of.
Ed, are you playing that on a speaker?
Yeah, I am, unfortunately.
Okay, can you pause that? We're fucking big time here.
Yeah, we have buttons for this. Name that sponsor.
Oh, we do.
Name that sponsor.
You know the game. Really simple. Thomas, who's now hosting, is going to name 3 sponsors. Drew, Edward, and myself have to tell you what that company does and which car they sponsor. Thomas, over to you, buddy.
Before we start, this better be difficult.
These are difficult. I
This
actually
better be
tried to make them
difficult
a little
because
bit more
last
difficult.
week was
Yeah,
just meh.
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. Okay, you guys ready?
Let's do this.
Okay, first one, Girard Perregaux. So to spell it is GIRARD dash PERREGAUX. Girard Perregaux.
Who wants to go first?
I'm gonna go first.
Go.
Gerard Perregaux is on Alpine, and it is a watch company.
All right, next.
I would say McLaren, and they make car seats.
Walker.
They are a watch company. Alpine's a good guess because they're French. But I am just going to change it up, and I'm going to go with Sauber.
All right, so it is a watch company. Both Drew and Walker are right in regards to that, but the team is actually Aston Martin.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't have a Blingier watch.
Or like a
With their
Hublot or
team.
something.
Yeah, interesting. All right.
All right, next one. This one is when I first read it, I didn't know what it was either until I actually read into the sponsor. Taintinger, TAITTINGER.
Again?
TAITTINGER.
Taitinger?
Taintinger, I guess. Yeah.
Taitinger.
Sounds like a sound effect. I is going to be on McLaren, and Tinger is a software development company.
All right.
I would say Haas and logistics.
Ferrari, Tool and Die.
All right. So for the team, Ed gets the point there. It is on Haas, and they basically alcohol, wines, and high quality champagne.
Okay.
That would be the alcohol sponsor on Haas.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't it be like Jack Daniels or something like totally
or Grey
American?
Goose. Maybe.
Yeah.
Told you I'm gonna make this week hard. I told you. All right.
This is just
That's what she
average.
said.
This is just baseline.
Yeah. We've all scored a point at each round, so figure
It's
it out.
okay. You still didn't get both of them correct, but all right. Next one is SIA.
SIA.
Is that an acronym?
It is, but if I say the whole thing, it's going to give it away. What
Okay.
the company does essentially.
What? But okay. Is that how the logo looks like?
It has the letters SIA in it. Yes.
Just SIA.
Let me quickly check. Yeah, SIA. Yeah.
Okay.
USA.
All right,
Okay,
it's
I'll
gonna
go
be
first.
on. Okay,
Are you
rock
on?
and roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. SIA. It's going to be in banking, mergers, acquisitions. That's my guess, and I believe it is on Alpine.
All right.
I'm gonna go with McLaren, and I think the A stands for automation, so I'm gonna go with something to do with that.
Okay.
SIA. I would go with Williams and actually no, Alpine software company.
Well, Ed, you should have stuck with Williams. That would have been the right guess for the team.
Okay.
But unfortunately, none of you are right. It's actually Spinal Injuries Association. Frank Williams was in a wheelchair essentially, so they teamed up with Williams, and basically it's aim to reach everyone with a spinal cord injury to tackle whatever barriers they might face and connect them to all the help and support they need to flourish in their lives and what they want to choose. That's
So
what
it's a charity.
Yeah, it's a charity
Yeah,
essentially.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Thomas. That's been a thrilling round of Name That Sponsor.
Yeah.
Recapping the scores, we have Drew with 6, myself and Ed with 5. It's a tight race, boys.
That's tight. We like it.
That's how I like it.
That's what she said.
Gentlemen. There's been lots of fun. Don't forget, hit us up on the Discord. Don't forget to find us on all the socials, Instagram, YouTube, wherever podcasts can be heard. Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all that good stuff. I'm Walker. For Drew, Thomas, Ed, this has been Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. Ciao for now.
Go Williams.